Well, I've seen it. Harry and Meghan's tell-all, or at least tell what you think makes you look good. And those are 3 hours I will never get back. What a boring, uninspiring, interminable waste of time. Believe it or not, this couple is still complaining. From the Montecito mansion with their 2 beautiful, perfectly healthy children, a little chicken coop and flower garden out back, matching Uggs for Meghan and her toddler, all royal titles still intact, complete with matching stationery, and nearly $200 million in the bank thanks to their insatiable desire to finally tell their story. Like to Oprah, and on Spotify, and in New York Magazine, and in a memoir, and, well, you get the point. They have to do it, you see, because no one knows the whole story. No one.
This has always been so much bigger than us.
No one knows the full truth. We know the full truth. The institution knows the full truth, and the media know the full truth because they've been in on it.
Okay, so Harry and Meghan know, and the entire royal family knows, and the press, who informs the public, they know, and the guy at the Sunoco, he knows, and the waiter at Olive Garden, he knows too, and that's all that knows. No one else knows the full truth. So they have to finally tell it. Okay. And what is their chief complaint, pray tell? It appears to be that the press has occasionally been not nice to Meghan Markle. After months of ubiquitous fawning coverage that made her a household name, some then said nasty things, like calling her the C word, and the B word, and the other B word. And you know what, Meg? Been there. Quick reminder.
Megyn Kelly's really biased against me. Do you really think she can be fair at a debate?
Which set off a new torrent of tweets.
80,000 tweets directed towards Megyn Kelly. Broke it down to see what the most popular words were.
Crazy Megyn Kelly.
Crazy,
Bimbo.
overrated.
Bimbo blonde.
Bimbo Megyn Kelly.
Slut. Hooker.
Can't watch Crazy Megyn anymore.
Donald Trump and his arch nemesis Megyn Kelly are making peace.
Signs of a truce this morning between
Their
Trump
feud
and
apparently diffused.
You met with Megyn Kelly today. How did that go?
Good times. And let me tell you what I've learned. Over time, the nastiness dies down, and you learn to rise above. You learn to look at your beautiful life and to focus on that, not what strangers write about you in the press. The sun keeps rising in the east, and your loving life goes on, no matter what people tweet or print about you. As King Charles once said, and I know you've seen this because it's in your series, you let this stuff take hold of you at your peril.
If you don't try to work out in your own mind some kind of method for existing and surviving this kind of thing, you would go mad, I think.
Obsessing over the negative pieces for 5+ years is another way to go. Constantly playing the victim despite the enormous gifts you've been given. But this is not healthy, nor is it particularly attractive. And, newsflash, it has the added effect of making people dislike you, thus feeding the demand for even more negative press. The people this pair is asking to feel sorry for them have their own problems, real ones. They live paycheck to paycheck for the most part. They have kids in public schools where they worry about depression or drugs and crazy teachers. They work all day. They're tired. They need a vacation that they're probably not going to get, and they don't have a closet full of designer dresses, never mind stylists surrounding them for major black tie events, as we see in this piece. They live in small houses or maybe an apartment. They keep a watchful eye on the rising gas and electric bills, the cost of groceries, as they try to save for college and still give their kids a nice Christmas. Too often they're dealing with health issues or dependency or unexpected layoffs, and they certainly don't give a damn about the mean tweets being sent out about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. One thing I did find interesting was the amount of emotional baggage Harry still carries. It's big. Good gracious, is this man insecure? Partly because he's a ginger, yes, wait for it, and partly because he clearly has not worked out the trauma of his mother's premature death. Time and time again, I said to myself while watching this guy needed therapy. Not the weird tapping thing he did. A real psychotherapist. That is what he needed, not a whiny, woke, annoying wife. Listen to him describe how his family allegedly reacted when he introduced them to Meghan.
I remember my family first meeting her and being incredibly impressed. Some of them didn't quite know what to do with themselves. Because I think they were surprised. Maybe surprised that a ginger could land such a beautiful woman and such an intelligent woman.
That's not his family. That's him. And he's not wrong. Does anyone really think if he were Harry Jones instead of Harry Windsor, this beautiful, semi-known social climber would have given him the time of day? It is a bit shocking that she's with him. Until you consider his title, fame, family, money, sort of, castles, staff, and access to fabulous things and people. That's what lured her in, clearly. Not Harry's red hair, and not his Mensa IQ either. Just kidding, that's not a real thing. Remember when he called the First Amendment bonkers? This is no scholar. All of this is a downside of being a prince, I guess. And not even the heir, just the spare. Honestly, though, it's probably also a downside of being a Gates or a Jobs or a Zuckerberg or a Beckham or a Brady. But it does explain why she so easily leads him around now by his little red puppy dog ears. Top that off with her damsel in distress routine every time a tabloid or a tweet or an anonymous internet troll says something nasty about her, and you have the perfect cocktail for frustration, tears, and eventually Megxit. Here's Harry explaining how he was not going to let this become Diana 2.0.
I accept that there will be people around the world who fundamentally disagree with what I've done and how I've done it. But I knew that I had to do everything I could to protect my family.
Hi, Grandma. Yeah. Hi, Grandma.
Especially after what happened to my mum.
Yeah. That's your Grandma Diana. Yeah.
You know, I didn't want history to repeat itself.
That's a sweet moment between the baby and the picture of his grandmother, who he will never know. But first of all, the press hasn't done anything to Meghan remotely approaching what happened with Diana, which I'll get to in 1 second. But did he really promise her, Harry? Did he really promise Meghan he would protect her from the press? In Botswana, out in the bush, when an elephant came by their tent, they tell us he promised to keep her safe. And now the occasionally mean reporters, they're the paper elephant.
It was so overwhelming.
A British prince and his American sweetheart.
I said, okay, well then I'll just treat it like we're in the bush. Where like, it's all foreign to me, but I trust that you'll keep me safe and you'll get me through it.
Aw, so sweet. And such an empty, asinine, absurd promise, which they both knew could never be kept. Because you know what? I'm part of the press, and we don't answer to Prince Harry. He does not control us, scare us, or really even get to shape our coverage at all. He certainly doesn't have any power over what American journalists or citizens write or say, which Markle knows very well as an American actress. But even in Great Britain, where the palace may be able to influence some coverage, they do not control the media. Otherwise, Prince Andrew would still be a working royal, and we wouldn't know how much he'd like to hang out with pervert Jeffrey Epstein. The series also makes clear the roots of Harry's newfound annoying wokeness. Yes, it's his wife's influence for sure. But he is also tormented, apparently, by that time he wore the Nazi uniform for Halloween when he was 20, complete with a swastika on his arm. Says it was one of the worst mistakes of his life. But wants us to know now that he met afterward with a rabbi and a Holocaust survivor. Because, he didn't know that Nazis were bad before that? Bad job, Eton. Hello? Since then, you see, however, he has done the work, tackling his unconscious bias, which he wants the rest of his family and Britain to do too. Because you're either part of the problem or part of the solution, okay, babe? And newsflash, Brexit supporters, you are part of the problem.
If you go back and look at the social media of that moment, immigration is at the absolute center of those debates. And immigration is very often in this country a cipher for race.
Everybody should feel concerned about illegal immigration. We don't know who these people are.
Get back to Africa.
Send them back on.
So the EU commissioned a report in 2016, exactly the same time that our relationship became public. It warned that if the government isn't going to do something, or if the media aren't going to sort themselves out, that a culture war that had already existed was going to become huge and become a real problem.
It was a perfect storm that gave credence to jingoism and nationalism and gave people with really horrible views of the world a little bit more strength and confidence to say what they wanted to say, to do whatever they wanted to do.
To be clear, if you supported the UK asserting its independence and leaving the EU, according to the moralists of Montecito, you are racist. You drove them out of the royal family. Looking at you, Nigel Farage, you are to blame for Brexit and apparently for Mexit. Unlike you racist, Brexiting Brits, Harry gives not a thought now to people's race. He is over it. Unless they're his kids, in which case he's super excited to share.
My son, my daughter, my children are mixed race, and I'm really proud of that.
Wait, is that okay? Are we allowed to be saying now how proud we are of our children's race? Because I'm pretty sure if a white person said that about their white kids, you'd be calling them racist. H, do better. Race is, of course, an ongoing theme of this so-called documentary and of this couple's woke life. Meghan's race is allegedly the reason why people came to loathe her, you see. And the race of those doing the reporting is the reason they're racist and keep doing racist things like not liking Meghan.
We have to recognize that this is a white industry. So people who come up with these headlines, they are doing so in a newsroom that's almost entirely white. And they get to decide whether something has crossed the line of being racist.
You see, the documentary lays it bare. By the way, can we really call it that, a documentary? It wasn't exactly fact-based. Seemed more like one of those inspired by a true story than an actual true story. Like most of these streaming documentaries, it wasn't produced or directed by a journalist. It was created by a woke Hollywood filmmaker who used to direct The Handmaid's Tale. And Liz Garbus's failure to adhere to journalistic standards is quite undermining of her piece. A journalist would not have used 5 shots unrelated to Harry and Meghan to show press harassment of them. A journalist would not have suggested a war by the press while showing a picture the couple blessed and cooperated with. That would not be ethical. A journalist would not have aired this thing without making sure that his or her attempts to get comment from the palace were repeated and clear and well documented, none of which happened here. A journalist would not have allowed Meghan to smear the BBC as doing an orchestrated reality show interview for their engagement without seeking comment from the BBC, which has since denied the charge and accused the filmmaker of misleading editing. A journalist might have felt duty-bound to point out that while Meghan was urgently messaging her dad about her wedding, she was coordinating with palace PR. These were not loving messages from a concerned bride-to-be. This was defensive PR by a woman obsessed with her media coverage. All of this came out in one of her many lawsuits against the UK press. Guess this documentarian forgot to document that. The fallout with her dad caused lasting damage. In one of the more shocking moments of the film, H describes it this way.
She had a father before this, and now she doesn't have a father. And I shouldered that, because if Meg wasn't with me, then her dad would still be her dad.
She doesn't have a dad? What a farce. She does have a dad. He raised her and loved her and paid for her college and never asked for any of this attention. He screwed up in dealing with the paparazzi, staging photos of himself, getting ready for her wedding, reportedly in exchange for cash. Not good. But unforgivable? One mistake after a lifetime of loving and supporting her? You know who doesn't have a dad? Me. And millions of others out there who would kill to have just one more Christmas with them. Just one more chance to hug them or spend time with them and put any BS misunderstandings behind us. Her dad has had 2 heart attacks and a stroke. He lives just a few hours away from her, but now he's dead to them because he didn't deal well with the paparazzi. He's ghosted. I guess Harry's her daddy now. And Harry, whose dad is also alive and well, and also the King of England, who could probably use some nice press about him right now. He's just started his reign, and Harry's message to him, my mother was all heart, and I am my mother's son. And also, I'm the only one in this family who married for love.
I think for so many people in the family, especially obviously the men, there can be a temptation or an urge to marry someone who would fit the mold, as opposed to somebody who you perhaps are destined to be with. The difference between making decisions with your head or your heart. And my mum certainly made most of her decisions, if not all of them, from her heart. And I am my mother's son.
I guess the sweet music is meant to soften it. Okay. So your dad raised you without your mom from age 12. But hey, he wouldn't keep the cash flowing when you quit working for the royal family, so I guess he can pound sand too. Megyn also makes clear, just in case you were wondering, Kate and Will's super formal, not just in public, but in private too. Stiff as a board, actually. Unlike the very warm and delightful hugger, Megyn, so fun to share stories. As for the matter of Diana's death and the cloud that looms as a result, Harry appears to me to be looking for a kind of do-over. If he can manage the press for Megyn and get a better result, maybe he'll feel better about what happened to his mom. Psychologists are well aware of this phenomenon. But Megyn is not Diana, and she is not getting hounded by the press in any way close to the way Diana was. Other than a few paparazzi hanging around outside of Megyn's house in Canada when their relationship first was made public, the only paparazzi shown bothering her is one guy on a scooter in New York City, in a scene that remains my very favorite of the entire series so far. Look at these drama queens.
Do we have that pap on the scooter again?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, we do? Really? Same guy?
Same guy.
Oh my God.
Watched him go into this park and then...
Is he with us?
Yes, sir. He was just ahead.
There's a lot of people who think they've got such a problem with paparazzi.
Yeah, those, the guys in the basement of the building, too, as we were doing that walk, they were recording, too, just so you're aware.
Back in my mum's days, it was physical harassment. You know, cameras in your face, following you, chasing you.
She's following us.
Who?
This path. I mean, worst case scenario, so safety first. Worst case scenario, we're going from one garage to another. Like, it's...
Safety first. It's one guy on a Vespa. What are you worried about? He's going to deliver some flowers in a newspaper to you? But this is so on brand for these two. A ridiculous overreaction to an absolute nothing burger that they then use to paint themselves as victims, and doubly so when no one reacts with the horror they expect. Harry is still miffed his family did not do more to protect his provincial, innocent, doe-eyed bride. You know, the one Tom Bauer says spent the months before she met Harry trying to find someone rich and famous to marry, and who, according to her friends, loved to set up paparazzi shots of herself.
The direction for the palace was, don't say anything.
No comment. Everyone just say no comment.
But what people need to understand is, as far as a lot of the family were concerned, everything that she was being put through, they had been put through as well. So it was almost like a rite of passage. And some of the members of the family was like, right, but my wife had to go through that. So why should your girlfriend be treated any differently? Why should you get special treatment? Why should she be protected? And I said, the difference here is the race element.
There it is again, her race. That's the game changer. She deserves special treatment because of her skin color. Is that how it works, by the way? The press has an obligation to go easy on Black or mixed race subjects? Tell it to Clarence Thomas, Larry Elder, Herschel Walker, Ye West, Will Smith. I could go on. In America and in the UK, the press cuts everyone. Everyone with power, privilege, or a platform, at least. People who seek the spotlight are going to get it, the good and the bad. It's not nice, but it is the world in which we live, the costs of a free press. And yes, it's worth it. There have been a few nasty racial comments about Meghan, and even some about Archie. A reporter at the BBC compared their baby to a monkey. Horrible. And he was promptly and rightly fired. Harry says more was required of the palace, but what? Fired is fired. And the vast majority of comments they mention in this piece, and there are not many, are either a one-off from a tabloid or a comment from online no-names. Why is it the palace's role to stifle stupid comments on the internet or in the media, even if they could? Even if they could. The UK has actually passed laws to make things safer for royals dealing with the press in the wake of Diana's death. These two have more protections from the media and paparazzi over there than they do here. But no institution can stop the churn and burn of news, of the tabloids. The best one can do is learn to ignore it. Harry suggests, so far, without evidence, that the palace was actually planting hit pieces against him and his wife. That's unfortunate, but again, unproven. And frankly, may have been fair play given this pair's behind-the-scene antics, bullying, and constant playing the victim. Remember when they went to Africa and Meghan complained in the midst of such poverty and suffering that no one was asking how she was doing? Meghan and Harry have a great life. I'm happy for them that they got away from a situation that was not working for them. If only they would now simply live that life without the constant lecturing and judging and petty complaining. The Queen, who had a keen sense of public perception, had a simple rule for her family. Never complain, never explain. It keeps the royals a bit mysterious and avoids some controversy. We are finding out from Netflix why that rule was so important. The more these two talk, the more we recoil. We desperately miss the mystery. Oliver the Ornament is a 7-book series about one family's collection of ornaments. The first book begins Thanksgiving night, while the last book takes place on Christmas morning. Each book introduces a new holiday ornament and weaves in the story of that ornament. It's a good idea, right? Super cute for the whole family. The books teach kindness, and they have lots of plot twists and cliffhangers. This is a great tradition for your entire family. Parents, grandparents, kids, grandkids, they're all going to look forward to the next family story night. It's a nice way to get everybody together. Maybe some hot cocoa mixed in, maybe a warm fire, maybe some eggnog for the grown-ups. It's great for the holiday season. Oliver the Ornament has won all kinds of awards and accolades. First Lady Melania Trump selected this book to be read at Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C., continuing a 75-year-long tradition. Go to olivertheornament.com today. olivertheornament.com today. Hit the big Shop Now button on the page, and when you buy the Oliver the Ornament set, you're going to get a whole bunch of extra goodies, including audiobooks. Use the code Megyn at checkout. Oliver the Ornament, ORNAMENT.com. Use code Megyn at checkout. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.